everybody, this is Quinn, and today I'm actually going to be reviewing my December book haul. I'm really excited to be doing this video. I have a surprising amount of books. I try not to buy books too often, but I think this is going to be a very unique and academic haul. You're going to see what I mean in a minute. And I'm actually going to go in order of throwback to college years, since some of these books really are books that I used in college. So yeah, without further ado, this is my December book haul, and I'm gonna go try to clump them up by category and where I got the books, and I'll be sure to talk about where I got the books. One of my favorite vendors is definitely thrift books. I love purchasing used books. I like purchasing books that have been worn or have been already written in. So if I have the opportunity to buy a used book, I will 9 times out of 10 buy the used book. So this actually started because I decided, for reasons that we'll discuss later, I needed to start looking at literary theory books because I'm currently reading Julius Caesar by Shakespeare, and the spark notes that I accompanied it with, while it does a good job, I don't think that it really positions the reader to ask really critical questions. Obviously, it's meant for college students and high school students, so it's not exactly meant for someone like me that is trying to think of the book in kind of new and fresh ways. So I needed a little bit of a refresher in a companion book. So I went back to the book that I had in college, which is this book. Literary Criticism, An Introduction to Theory and Practice. This is the 4th edition, and I think it is actually the most recent edition. But when I was looking for it, Thrift Books had it, and so I'm like, I definitely have to buy it from Thrift Books. So I got this book, which I really love. I am specifically looking at feminist and queer theory. No real surprise there. And I'm really happy that this comes with sample essays, and I am familiar with the book. I liked it. My professor that used it in college, I think, did really a good job. So I have really fond memories of this book, so that's the one I'm using. And while I was on Thrift Books, they're like, oh, if you add more to your cart, you'll get free shipping. And I'm kind of a sucker for that. So I also added, not related to literary theory, The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I added this without realizing I already have it in my Kindle, but that's totally okay. It was $2.49. How could I not add it? Mass paperback. I was okay getting it in this format because I don't anticipate that I'm going to annotate it too terribly much. Watch, I'm going to annotate the heck out of it. But regardless, I got The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I also got A Treasury of Asian Literature. I actually used this in college again for an Asian lit class, and I really liked the mix of stories in here. There are stories from Arabia, Iran, India, China, and Japan, over a course of 2,500 years. So this was my very first introduction to the Mahabharata. This was my first introduction to the Tale of Genji. This was just my first introduction to a lot of classic Asian lit. And I had been wanting to hunt this down, but Thrift Books didn't have it. And I was determined to buy it through Thrift Books. So I'm like, I guess I'm like a college student still, and I want to buy a used book. So I waited, and right when I was buying the literary criticism book, this was also in stock. So I just thought, it's fortuitous. The gods have aligned. And I got this one, and I'm super excited. And then to wrap up that purchase, I got an anthology of Japanese literature. This is from earliest era to mid-19th century. So they go from ancient to 794 AD, from 794 to 1185, and 1185, and so on and so forth. I hadn't had an anthology of Japanese literature, and I also didn't want to have one of just modern lit. I kind of wanted a bit more of a spread. So I'm pretty excited that I got this book. So I just used this to kind of round out my Thrift Books haul, and I got free shipping, which is always great. The next books that I'm going to talk about are from Half Price Books, and anytime that I need kind of college textbooks or more niche, I usually go to Half Price Books, and I get lucky sometimes, or I have to order it in. But I knew that if I was looking for textbooks, used textbooks obviously, Half Price Books was a really good place to go. So I'm going to start off with one of my more normal finds, and then the tome for my literary theory haul. As a writer, I struggle with passive voice, so I've started picking up more modern authors. And of course, who else could I pick that's better than Neil Gaiman? So as I was going through Half Price, I stumbled upon this anthology of Neil Gaiman, or Gaiman. I have read quite a few of his books. While some of them don't really sit with me, I'm not the audience simply because the protagonist is a little bit younger. I did want to pick up some short fiction of his. So I grabbed this while I was like running out of the store. Running out. I grabbed this while I was walking out of the store. I'm never running out of a bookstore. So Fragile Things, I'll probably just start reading short stories intermittently and probably discussing them, since I am starting to really look at it from a writer's perspective of what do I like about this book. And the reason that I went to Half Price Books on this particular day was to see what other books of literary theory there were. And I was not disappointed. So I'm going to start with Critical Theory Today, a user-friendly guide. So this book goes through different schools of theory and they have practical applications. It's always a bit of a leap for me personally to apply theory to practice. So this book kind of takes you step by step on how to ask the critical questions, search for supporting evidence of your theory. And I thought, since I was kind of going this alone, I'm not in college, I thought this would be a really good book for me to use as a companion, since I am trying to critically assess Norton Critical Edition books. So pretty happy with this little guy. I also got Feminist Readings. There is, not surprisingly, a bit of a gap in literary theory and like feminist perspectives, queer theory, and other perspectives that view the people and how they're depicted, the others, the minorities, if you will. And I thought it was really interesting to find a book specifically about how to read books from a feminist perspective. And there are different theorists that are applied. So I thought this was a really good book for me to have, since I am looking at the book from a feminist and queer theory perspective, as I said earlier. So not very long, and I think this is probably one of my best finds. To round out the literary theory haul, I'm really excited. I got this guy, the Norton Anthology of Theory and Criticism. This, I'm pretty sure, was an English professor's book, which I kind of feel special about. This is the first edition. I believe it was published in like 2000, 2001. Currently, Norton Critical Edition is on the third edition of this book, so I was able to get this book for $10. It was on sale, originally $20. But I pretty much think I'm set as far as having the theorists, having examples. This book has about 1,000-ish pages of lit theory. So many of the supporting literature that I find in the other books that I've just showed is actually in this book. And I spent quite a bit of time, going through it, seeing if there were any theorists that I know that I want to implement in my analysis. And I was very happy with it. So this guy is kind of like the crowning jewel of my lit theory collection. Stay tuned. I'll have a whole class ready, I'm sure, by end of the year. But my next step on this is to actually kind of bind it a little more, or cover it. That's a better word. I'm going to cover it because it is a thick boy, and I don't trust that this little cover will hold it together. So I am really excited to cover this book and protect it. But I have a feeling this is going to come in handy with my supporting literature. So very excited about him. I think this is the reason I wanted to do the book haul like really bad. I'm really proud of this purchase, and I'm proud of the fact that I will actually use this, and I'm not just going to have like a big chunky book on the shelf that I'm never going to touch. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of use out of this guy, and I'm very excited. Maybe someday I'll upgrade it to the most recent edition that we have, but that is also like $110 that I don't want to spend. But yeah, super happy with this. Kind of in the same vein of theory, I bought Roman Shakespeare by Copelia Khan. I'm probably not saying that correct. Warriors, Wounds, and Women. Feminist Readings of Shakespeare. As I mentioned, I'm currently reading Julius Caesar by Shakespeare, and I will be reading all of his Roman plays This is a textbook specifically written by a woman as a feminist reading of every single one of the Roman plays. I couldn't have picked kind of a book that screamed more purchase me, and I'm really happy I got it. So this tackles the 4 Roman plays in different schools of theory, and I'm actually really excited to kind of dive into this. Since I'm tackling Julius Caesar first, I'm going to read the Julius Caesar story first, and I'm really excited to look at the school of theory that Quinn uses for Julius Caesar. So this was a really random, unexpected find, especially something so niche. I actually struggled to purchase this because I was like, oh, should I get it? Should I not get it? And my partner, he's like, I don't know why you're struggling. You're going to get it. So I'm glad I got it. It's actually used. So little treasure here. Really happy, really excited to read it. I'll probably read the Julius Caesar one sometime in Q1. For those of you that don't know, I am based out of Chicago. So I'm always trying to find like local Chicago bookstores to go visit. And I was able to find a bookstore that I hadn't actually been to yet. I got these books at Open Books in Logan Square. I'm going to link their website below. It's actually a nonprofit, I came to find out. But they have a pretty good mixture of like new, used, like classic. So I kind of went in not knowing what to expect. We were just driving by and I'm like, oh, there's a bookstore, just park on the side of the road. And I walked in by myself. I got Labyrinths by Jorge Luis Borges. I had been trying to get a book by Jorge Luis Borges. I'm not sure why. Something made me just gravitate to this writer. And I did it at like Barnes & Noble and Half Price Books. And I'd been wanting to buy a set of essays by Borges, but nothing ever seemed right. But I decided to get this one since it was a local shop. What really attracted me was the Library of Babel, obviously. And I don't think you can go wrong with Borges. I've never read him. Or maybe I did in college, but I just don't remember. But I'm really excited to tackle this little book. It's not that long either. So I like the cover and the binding. Another book I got at Open Books is The Ruin Map by Kobo Abe. I've never read this author, but what attracted me was kind of the first line of the blurb. A private detective is hired to find a missing person. I mean, that's interesting. I thought the cover was really cool. And I really like this binding. I don't know why. It's a Penguin Modern Classics. But I just thought it was really cool, and I like that it matched the Borges book. But excited to read this one yet. I'm not sure when I'll tackle it. Lastly, at Open Books, I got this book by Jean-Ray Maupertuis. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that, and I really apologize. But I was attracted by the cover first, and then I kind of put it back, and I took it, and I put it back, and I took it, and I put it back, and at the very last minute, I still didn't know if I was going to buy it. I had gotten the other 2 books, but this one was the one that was kind of like, am I going to get it or not? What really attracted me to this after the cover was the first line. Ray tells his gloomy tale by means of a puzzle box of nested narratives wrested from a set of manuscripts stolen from a monastery. That kind of has me written all over it. I think it's really interesting, and I've read the intro of it, and I already find it really fascinating, and I wish that I hadn't been out in public and I had started annotating it, but is what it is. So I'm glad I got it. I'm actually really happy that it's in my collection now, and I don't know when I'll pick it up, but when I'm kind of in the mood for like a spooky story, I'm really excited to pick this up. And then the last books that I'm going to talk about are books that I actually got at a local shop called Buckets of Blood. My friend took me there. She'd been telling me to go visit, so I finally went with her, and I was not disappointed. So Buckets of Blood is this like weird horror eclectic sort of little bookshop, and they have a whole queer section, which was really cool. And these are the books that I got there. First, I want to talk about this book, Queer Fear 2. It's a gay horror fiction anthology. There is one that was published prior to this, but this one attracted me a little bit more. I'm not too sure why. I think it's because of the texture of the cover. But I thought it was a very unique mix to have queer horror stories in one anthology. So I'm excited to kind of just check out these short stories. I've been buying a lot of short story collections lately. I think they're a little more palatable, easier to consume and read. And I'm really excited about these queer specific horror stories. So really excited. The next book I bought at Buckets of Blood is The Devourers by Indra Das. I was really attracted to the cover. I thought it was very interesting and beautiful. And when I found out that this was a book that took place in India, I was pretty much sold. It has elements of like fantasy and folktale, and that's really what I like. I like reading diverse literature. I like reading diverse authors. And to have a book set in India, I thought was a really fun premise. And this was also in the queer section, so, you know, why not? The back cover also has this really cool skull, so I just was drawn in by the fantastic art, and I can't wait to read it. Another book from Buckets of Blood, Polar Horror, Strange Tales from the World's Ends. As you can probably tell, or maybe you cannot, I love anything Arctic, so this book being a set of polar horror stories, I just had to pick it up. I loved it. I read, I think, like the first paragraph of the first story, and I was already drawn in. I haven't actually read this simply because I'll probably sit there and not read anything else. And I already have another book that I'm reading, so I'm going to get through that first. But I'm super excited about Arctic horror. I love anything and everything Arctic. So this was definitely up my alley. Super excited for everyone in here. Edited by John Miller. I don't know who that is, but that's okay because it is about Arctic exploration. Super excited. These last two books are also from Buckets of Blood, and kudos to the vendor. I went up to them, and my friend had been talking about some like metal band, and they're like, hey, how can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for anything about like Hollow Earth, anything that has books about Hollow Earth or a story taking place in Hollow Earth, and they did not disappoint. So I got At Earth's Core by Edgar Rice Burroughs and Etidorfa, or The End of the Earth, The Strange History of the Mysterious Being by John Uri Lloyd. These are definitely more classics in kind of like Hollow Earth fiction. I am not an expert on Hollow Earth fiction at all, so if you are, please recommend any other books. But I was really excited to add these to my collection because, you know, the Godzilla movies kind of got me thinking about it. And I love that this is like a little old school pamphlet. And this one's, I guess, kind of like a newer publication. But it does have pictures and everything in there and like diagrams. So I'm excited to see what these books hold. I'll probably read these on a weekend. This one maybe not, but this one for sure. And just see what I can find. I'm not sure what I expect. I have like no expectations, but I'm pretty excited. Okay, I missed one from Half Price. Another one from Half Price that I got. Troy, an epic tale of rage, deception, and destruction. I'm currently reading the Iliad by myself, so it's quite an undertaking. And I'm reading the classic translation alongside Emily Wilson's recent translation. And so I'm kind of in this like Trojan, you know, Bronze Age mood. When I saw this book, I wasn't too terribly impressed, right? Because it's, let me see, it's not exactly the most detailed book or anything like that. I don't know if you can see with the glare, but it's pretty basic. However, I did find it interesting that they talked about other queer ancient couples, which I'm kind of all about. So I decided to get it as just supplemental text, context, other things that I might not have thought of myself, because I am not an expert in ancient Greece or in ancient Troy. But I'm really excited to just kind of pair this with my read. Any support I can get, because I'm reading it by myself and it's quite a thick, heavy book. That book I'm reading over like a span of 2 years. So this is the last one I got from Half Price, but it slipped through the cracks. And that's my haul. That's actually quite a few more books than I thought I would get in December, but the literary theory books kind of just did it. And I'm really excited for the new bookstores that I discovered. I'm going to go to a couple more new ones in the month of January. So I'll probably buy at least 2 books from there. We'll see. Well, that's all I got. Let me know what books you guys bought over the holiday break, what books you're planning to read. Really excited to kind of start this discussion going, especially around like heavier books because people don't really read those casually. But I will see you in the next video. Bye!